Hello, guys. Welcome to another exciting episode on the show, Control or Be Controlled, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. And as always, I remain your host, Darlington. It's a beautiful day today, and it's a new episode on the show. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm excited to have our guest for today, Justin Shaw. Justin is an author of Sourcery 101, 13 Rungs to a Higher Elevation of Consciousness. He's a former stand-up comedian who battled addiction, PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Justin transformed years of struggle into a unique approach to personal and spiritual growth, blending humor, personal experience, and practical insights. His book introduces the concept of becoming a sorcerer, someone who reconnects with source to heal trauma, reclaim self-worth, and live with greater purpose. Please, let's welcome Justin Shaw to the show. Justin, welcome to Control or the Control.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Very good to be here.
All right. So, Justin, the title of your book, it might get some people wondering sorcery. That's like most people, when you hear sorcery, think about witchcraft.
Yeah.
Sorcery 101, more like witchcraft 101. So, but the spelling is Souro, so different from the
Yes. Yeah. The
original
spelling is
spelling.
really important.
So why you did intentionally spell it that way? And what does becoming a sorcerer actually mean?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. I started the book with that you might be wondering why the title of this book is misspelled. Well, because this isn't Hogwarts and I'm not Dumbledore, right? Like this is not some Harry Potter stuff going on here. I'm not going to be able to teach you to move the phone to the counter to your hand or turn your roommate into a frog. It's not that kind of sorcery, right? Like this is sorcery spelled with a U. So I came up with this because the idea of becoming a sorcerer, if it's sorcerer spelled Sorcery, and sorcery that I spelled is Sourcery. So it's connecting with the source energy. It is that energy field which we all came from and are all going back to. I believe we're all connected through this ocean, the sea of consciousness. Like a fish, surrounds water. Like a fish is swimming through water. It's very hard to explain the concept of water to a fish, and that's what I've kind of been assigned to do. Um, it's 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 just this field of energy. It's information. It's everything, and you can connect to it. It's a bit like a phone that's been in airplane mode its whole life. That's what I felt like the first time I connected to this field. The quantum field, the unified field. You can call it God, chi, prana. And I call it source. It's got hundreds of names, but it's all the same thing. And something happened when I connected to this field of energy. It transformed who I am and took me off airplane mode. A phone that's perpetually in airplane mode. Airplane mode. It's still useful. It's still there's still a lot of things you can do with a phone in airplane mode, but it's definitely not living up to its potential. You're not going to get any calls. You're not going to get any emails. You're not going to get any texts. You're not going to get any messages. Right. That's the key. These messages that come in once you're connected and off airplane mode, these messages can come in at all times. And what I was assigned to do was essentially write this book that is a map or a blueprint to get people off airplane mode and to connect to this field of energy that surrounds us at all times. And, once I suddenly, when I connected to it, I became that fish that saw the water. And now I'm the weird fish that's swimming around trying to tell all the other fish about the water that surrounds them. And none of the fish have any idea what I'm talking about. So, like it's coming around but it's getting out there. And some people understand, there are people that understand it and there are people that want to understand it. And those are the people I'm trying to get at, because those are the people that want to wake up. This is awakening. In order to ascend, you must first awaken, and this is the key to awaken. And ascension is up to you. But this is, I've figured out a way for people to awaken, and ascension is something you have to do on your own, and it's a journey, and it's seeking. But in order to ascend, you have to awake, and that's what this is about. This is sorcery, at its best. And I'd love to see, the people I have connected with just absolutely love it, and they love the idea of becoming a sorcerer because it sounds very cool. And but it's not that kind of sorcerer magic of Merlin or Gandalf or anything like that. It's real magic. This is what I call emotional alchemy. It is turning something, into gold. It is turning these base emotions, into elevated emotions, and becoming something greater. It's overcoming humanness, and you don't have to fight to do it. And it's really exciting. So that is what sorcery is about, and that is what becoming a sorcerer is all about. A sorcerer. I like to say a sorcerer knows that they're special, but also not unique. So if you think about that in a way, everyone is special, but no one is unique. So I don't like people saying, "Well, what do you think you're special?" You are special, but you're not unique. So pass that special on to other people, and that's what sorcerers do. They pass the little bit of magic they have on to other people, and that's what real sorcery is about. Yeah.
Justin. Justin, thank you for that wonderful answer. So, you describe the book as a system for healing other than just another self help book. What makes Sorcery 101 different?
Well, I can tell you right off the bat, it's funny. It's really, I use my humor, as a stand-up. I believe there's a lot of healing in laughter, and so there's a lot of other self-help books out there that are very useful and good. But this one is going to make you laugh. So it's I concentrated. I had to make I had to design this book because it just came out last year. I had to design this book for Generation TikTok that has absolutely no concentration, very hard to focus on things. So I had to make every moment of the book to where you're either laughing, thinking, or feeling, so that I don't lose people, or do the best I can not to. I'm still going to probably lose people, but the attention span of, especially the kids here in America, a lot of them, it's really crappy. They can't hold on to anything for more than a few seconds, and that's the phones have really done quite a number on a lot of youth here, especially in America with TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. So, not that it's necessarily bad. It's just it's done that. So I came up with I had to make this as not boring as possible. So, I kind of get into it, in the beginning, and kind of create some rapport and tell stories about, myself and what I've been through. And, I've kind of been through the ringer. I've experienced jails and rehabs and halfway houses, and I've spent nights homeless and, park benches and wherever I can, outside. It's not a fun time, but it's interesting because to be able to rebound and come from that, as I've certainly impressed myself quite a bit. And there's a lot of fun stories in there. If anyone out there is aware of the American rapper, DMX, that I was in rehab with him for a couple days. And so, I start the book out with, the story of me in rehab with DMX, and I make it pretty funny. So, it is very different. I've never read anything like it. It really separates itself. And again, like I can't take too much credit for it because it wasn't like I wrote the book as much as I channeled it, right? Like it's this field of information that I connected to. And I took out my 401k that I was saving for retirement because I realized I found something that I never want to retire from. So when I wrote this book, it was about 9 months probably of just every day. Just I had the idea during what I call a bliss attack. If a bliss attack happens, when you're kind of in the gamma brainwave state, and that happen. This happens to me a couple times a year now, and they're unpredictable, and I never know when they're going to happen. But they happen at very important times, and they lead me in certain directions, and I get incredible ideas when they happen. And so the book came to me during one of these bliss attacks, and these are drug free. I never have had a bliss attack on any drug, even hallucinogens. I find them very helpful, hallucinogens, psychedelics. But this is another level. This is something past that. This is better than any drug I've ever had, and I've never had a bliss attack on any sort of drug. So, and this is what I want people to experience is that the best drug is no drug. You just have to connect to this force of energy. And so the book came to me, and I just started writing it, and it just really, this energy in this field of information, this is ancient wisdom that's been around since the beginning of time. And what happened was it filtered through me and through my subconscious, through my experiences, through my humor, and came out through my fingers. So I can't, it's hard to say. Did I write the book or did I channel it? I really, I don't know. But what came out was something beyond me and proof that there is this energy field that truly exists. That, whatever you want to call it. I've had a lot of struggles with religion in the past, so I don't like bringing religion up. The God word kind of, is a little bit hard for me because I've had some religious trauma in my past, and I don't really particularly care for religion very much. Spirituality and religion. I believe spirituality unites and religion separates. I believe spirituality. Religion is taught. Whereas spirituality is found, and so I found spirituality. And this is for other people that want to find something different. So people that might be a little bit tired of, the sermons that it might be getting at church, or the separation that, this religion is the way and we have to recruit everybody. And, I was big into the Christian religion and stuff. So, that's what makes this different, is that it's not attached to any sort of religion. This is spirituality at its finest. And so it really sets itself apart from a lot of other things out there. It combines the self-help with the spirituality. There's a lot of self-help books don't bring in the spirit part of it. That, especially here in America, we've got this separation of mind, body, spirit. They just recently decided, maybe the mind and body are connected, and that was probably about 20 years ago, very, very recently. But the spirit is still completely left out, and I don't see any hope of the spirit being brought into the equation at all. So this book brings the spirit in. It is self-help plus spirituality plus humor. And so it combines all three, and that is true healing. Mind, body, spirit. You must pay attention to all three if you want real healing. Any condition labeled as chronic, I believe, stems from something I call spiritual bankruptcy. Okay, so disease of the mind and body is, I believe, directly related to dis-ease in the spirit. So mind, body, spirit. If you've got dis-ease in your spirit, it's going to cause disease in your mind and body. And that's what happened with me. Absolutely 100%. These depression, anxiety, PTSD, all these chronic conditions that are lingering, and even conditions in the body such as cancer, autoimmune disorders. There are things that can be helped. And I'm not saying, don't go the Western route, of the medicine and the pills and things like that. I would never tell someone to not do that. But I would say be holistic about it and explore all areas of healing. Maybe, Western plus Eastern medicine is the route to go for you. I prefer simply Eastern medicine. That is what's worked for me. Acupuncture and meditation and just the holistic approach to it, energy healing, shamanism. These are things that truly helped me after a long time in the system over here in America, the Western system, which is doctors and pills, and there's no spiritual. Let's not talk about what's going on in your life. Like your cancer has nothing to do with any sort of resentment you're holding on to. Doctor, you're not going to sit down in a doctor's office with cancer and he's not going to tell you, well, you need to release that resentment you have against your ex-wife. You know what I mean? Like it's just not going to happen here. No doctor is going to tell you that, and they're not going to get into your life. They're not going to get it deep deep into it and ask, well, how was your childhood? Well, have you gone to therapy? What are you doing for that? They're just gonna say, this is cancer. This is the route. We're gonna go chemo. We're gonna do this, and we're gonna beat it. And that's just not doing enough, in my opinion. So again, what makes this different is setting it apart from that Western approach. It's adding something into it. For people out there that are suffering from any condition labeled as chronic, this isn't for acute, things, like if you have the flu, like it's we get sick sometimes, and that's okay. It's going to pass, and it's going to be okay. That's an acute symptom. It goes away. I like to compare it to, something acute would be like if you climbed a ladder and you fell off and there's a bone sticking through your arm right now. So like all of a sudden you fell off the ladder on a concrete and there's a bone sticking through your arm. Well, this probably isn't the best time for, meditation, acupuncture isn't going to do a whole lot for you in that moment, right? So we need doctors. They're there for a purpose. You need to go and to a doctor and you need to set that bone and it needs to heal properly. Because if it doesn't heal properly, then it's like it's now you have to guard it because it's going to hurt whenever someone touches it, and that's the same for emotional trauma. If it's not healed properly, which is what this book is focused on, healing trauma and emotional injuries properly, because the body heals itself. What made the body heals the body. The doctors here in America that set bones for arms do an amazing job, and thank God for them, but they don't actually do any of the healing. They set the bone, they put it in, and the body heals itself. Well, when it comes to emotional trauma and things that come in that aren't physical, we have a hard time understanding anything that's not physical. We have a really good understanding of the physical world and the physical body, but when we talk about anything that's not physical, we really lose understanding. And so I like to use the physical because it illustrates what I'm talking about. So it's, setting this book is about setting the emotional bone, right? The emotional bone, setting that emotional bone and allowing the body to heal itself. Because the old fallacy of time heals all wounds is simply bullcrap. It's just not true. You have a trauma that happens and you just don't do anything about it, and time goes by. Well, yes, it does. It does heal from the conscious mind, but then it moves into the subconscious mind. And anytime someone gets near that wound, just like an arm that was broken and didn't heal properly, you didn't get the bone set, whenever you go near that arm and someone touches it, it's going to hurt. Well, it's the same thing for emotional trauma. So you go near that wound that hasn't healed, that father that left you when you were a child, and now you're watching a movie about a father leaving a child, and it's going to hurt and it's going to sting, and you're not going to want to be around it. You're going to have an emotional attack because that whole incident has moved into your subconscious. Maybe it's not affecting you on a day-to-day basis on your conscious mind, but it is in your subconscious and it has not been healed. So this is about a focus on setting the emotional bone and allowing the body to heal itself. And so we have to understand what's going on with the mind, body, spirit connection in order to truly heal ourselves from any condition labeled chronic. So that's a long-winded answer, but that is what makes this different. Humor and bringing in true mind, body, spirit harmony is what this is all about.
Okay, thank you so much. You've covered most of my questions from that particular answer. So, if someone feels trapped by fear, addiction, anxiety, or emotional pain, what is the first lesson from Sourcery 101 you would want them to embrace?
Yeah, good one. So it's kind of a twofold answer. One is to understand what the shadow is. Carl Jung, famous psychologist here in America, very old timey, early 1900s. He said that the shadow is something. It is a part of us. It is a side of us that was created by trauma and limiting beliefs. It is a combination of those two things. So your traumas throughout your life, childhood and adult, as well as limiting beliefs that have been placed inside of you. A lot of times these beliefs come from childhood because we don't have the mental acuity to question things when we're younger. So when people tell us things, especially when we're younger, disparaging things, they become fact and reality, and they become part of our belief system. And belief systems is what guides us through life. Belief systems affect every single part of our life, every single part, decision making, everything. So belief systems are what's guiding us to the future we desire or the future we don't. And so it's very important to understand that the shadow is made up of these beliefs, these limiting belief systems. So fear comes from, from kind of, it's all one energy. Joy and fear are actually the same energy. It's just fear, is being it's being filtered through BS or belief systems. It's getting filtered through belief systems that no longer serve us. So when we're in fear, we're in kind of that fight or flight mode, and we're, if it's a big problem in our lives, this is part of our shadow. So it's important to understand that the shadow is a part of us, this side of us. The shadow for me, is, it got me into a lot of trouble. And so it's important to understand that you are not the shadow. So in AA, and here in America, the big thing is to call yourself an alcoholic. Well, no one in AA is actually an alcoholic. They are the awareness of the alcoholic. You are a loving awareness of yourself. The awareness of a thought is not a thought. So what is that? Well, that's you. So it's important to understand that you are not this undesirable side, that side that makes you angry, the side that's in chronic disease, the side, the addiction, the depression, that is the shadow side. So you are the awareness of the shadow, which means you have full control of yourself at all times, but you have to understand that you are this awareness. And so it's just, that's a really important aspect to understand. And I can kind of give a quick metaphor for the shadow. I like to compare it to being in a car. So if the shadow is driving your car, and the shadow has been in each position in the car in my life at different times, and so when the shadow is driving the car, it's always going to drive off a cliff. You might survive the cliff, and it drives off a cliff, and you might survive. Like I would get put in jail. I would, there were car accidents. I'd be park benches, and each time, the shadow was driving off a cliff. Now somehow I survived those cliff. Not literally. We're talking about a metaphor here. So each time, my shadow car would, drive me off a cliff, and I'd end up in jail or on a park bench, or something would happen. I'd get the car back on the road, and then it'd just drive off the cliff again. It's because I just kept the shadow in the front seat, in the driver's seat, and it just drove. And so you see this in society. These are the people that are street people, and they can't hold down jobs. They can't, live in apartments. They can't have a normal life. They just can't, because the shadow is driving their car. Now you can move the shadow into the passenger seat, but unfortunately, the passenger is still kind of too involved in the conversation, because now the passenger, and this happened to me in religion. So the shadow was when I had no religion or spirituality whatsoever, and I was just an absolute mess. Well, religion is better than nothing at all. So now the shadow is in the passenger seat. Okay, so, but it's still too directly involved in the conversation. That for me in Christianity, it was there's a lot of fear-based crap in Christianity that just is not true. Anything that gives you the ick, when it comes to religion, those are lies. But I was listening to it, and the whole idea of hell, and thinking everyone around me was going to hell, and these are fear-based things that was holding me back. And there's a lot of separation in religion. There's like, you are just a mortal human being, you're nothing, and God is everything. I don't agree with that. I think we're all fractal versions. We're all little fractal versions of the creator itself. So you are God. You are not separate from this creator, this field that surrounds us. We are part of it. It's just an illusion. Separation is just an illusion. It seems like that person is different than you, or, everything around us might be separate from us, but it's just an illusion. You are part of that source energy. So that the idea of the shadow being in the passenger seat, well, it's better that you can function. I was functioning with the shadow in the passenger seat, and I had an apartment and I had a job, and this was a better life than the shadow driving my car, but it was still holding me back. Then I had these bliss attacks and had these kind of awakenings and all this stuff, and realized that I could put the shadow in the back seat because you can't kick it out of the car, and you can't hate that you have this side of you that you may not like. You have to learn to love it. Because if you don't like your shadow, now you're creating the same emotions that the shadow is comprised of, and you've done no work on yourself. So you cannot hate your shadow. You have to understand what it is, where it came from, and why it happened, and then love it, like a brother. And a brother's a good example because a lot of people don't get along with their brother or their sister, but they love them. Like they wouldn't want to live with them or something anymore. Maybe they grew up with them or whatever, and so they love them, but maybe they don't. They clash with them. Well, it's okay to kind of like be you just love them from afar, and that's the thing with the shadow in the back seat. And you just want to check on it, like almost like a child in the back seat. Like, do you want some Cheerios back there? How's the air? Like kind of check on it a little bit, and just know that it's there, and love it, and take care of it. And so that is the shadow. And so it's very important to understand that. I advise people to name your shadow because that creates a little bit of separation, to understand that that is not you. That is something else. It is a part of you, but it is not. But it is not you. You are not the shadow. So name it and understand when it's coming up. Give it a name, whatever you want, and understand when it's coming up. So it's important to know, and how to mine the subconscious and the shadow, and how to understand it is going to be the second thing I tell people, which is start meditating. Yoga can be a part of meditation, but I do yoga and meditation, so I kind of hold them separate. But meditation, there's a lot of apps out there with guided meditation. If you don't have to sit there in silence and do the monk thing. A lot of people think that's the only route. Just stare at a candle. Like you can do guided meditations, which makes them go very fast. Start with that. There's Insight Timer and Headspace and Calm, and there's apps out there that you can do it, and there's free stuff that you can find. And so finding that and starting, even just 5 minutes, just start with 5 minutes, but you have to start doing it every day, because if you don't, you're pretty much telling the creator of the universe that you're busy. We have two types of focus: convergent focus and divergent focus. Convergent focus is what we're in right now. It's what most people are in all day. It's a distraction. TV, kids, working out. You're in convergent focus. You're focused on something. Your focus converged. Divergent focus is a focus on a broadening of the focus and a focus on everything. And that is when source energy can come in and talk to you. And it will, once you have a divergent focus in meditation and you've broadened your focus, and now you've opened yourself up and you've said to the creator of the universe, please speak to me. And you can ask it to say, what do I need to know? What is one word I should know right now? What is something I should do today? You can even ask it yes or no questions, and you'll get answers. It is that intuitive voice. And so those are the two things I would say that people really need to understand the most to start out. And those are the first two rungs, right? This is a system I created, 13 rungs to a higher elevation of consciousness. So, I was in AA for a long time, and they have the 12 steps or whatever. And there's just a lot of flaws, I feel like, to the 12 steps. And so, moving forward, stepping forward, well, that's good, but moving up, and that's better, because a bird has a better perspective on things than a worm, right? So that is what this is about. So those are the first two rungs. They are about understanding the shadow, understanding the importance of meditation. So and they're the first two for a reason, because they're very, very important. So that is what I would tell people who are struggling and to get out there and just understand those two things. That's a great place to start.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin. So, what do you hope readers experience by the time they finish the book?
What was that?
What do you hope readers experience by the time they finish the book?
My goal would be to have their own bliss attack. That is what I would hope. But you can't just read the book and expect to have, a bliss attack. You must implement the things as part of your life, and understand that this is a day-to-day thing. So it is practicing the things in the book. It's not just reading it. Just reading the book is not going to get you to the bliss attack. You must implement the things in the book into your life, and I guarantee you will have one. And that's the most exciting part. But yeah, it's if you're just going to read it, and that's fine too. If you just want to read it and you're just kind of curious, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh, think, and feel. That I can promise. And by the end of the book, I would hope you said that you'll, if you made it to the end, you won't feel like you wasted time. I can tell. I can guarantee you that. But what I really hope is you implement all the things into your life, because there's a lot to it. But if you do implement these things, watch out, because change happens quickly, and it will happen. Yeah, it can happen very fast. It just depends on how dedicated you are to transformation. It can be, transformation can be a very difficult and painful thing. You just ask any werewolf, right? So it's just it can be difficult, but it is so rewarding that it's only really difficult in the beginning because you're rewiring your mind, right? Like we can do anything. Our mind is very pliable, plasticity, neuroplasticity. It can regenerate itself. It can make new connections. What fires together wires together. So you're making new neural pathways in the brain, and that can be tough because if you think about a pathway, that you create, there's a lot of pathways here in Arizona that cut through the desert, and there are a lot of cool hiking paths, and they're very well trodden. You can see it. So, but if you're going to create a new hiking path, let's say in the forest somewhere, well, that's hard to do, right? You have to trudge through bushes, and it usually takes, you got to bring a machete with you, and you're cutting through forest, and you're trying to get through, and that first time through is really difficult. But then you walk through again, and maybe you brush it out, and you're getting you're stomping down the ground, and you're making it, and then you just keep going through that path, and then it becomes the path most, and then it's easy. But in the beginning, creating a new neural pathway is just like creating a pathway through the forest. It's tough. It's not easy. But the more you walk that pathway, the easier it gets. And then it just becomes your default setting. And that's what's become for me. So that's what I would hope for people that, read the book. The biggest thing is I hope they don't just read it. I hope they implement the things in there, because that's when the magic happens. The sorcery happens when you start implementing the things into your life that is in there. That's what I really hope for people.
All right. So here is my final question for you. If our listeners remember just one message from Sourcery 101, what would you want that message to be? Just one message.
Yeah, I would say, um, get curious. That would be the message I would tell anyone. For me, there's this big thing of live life like it's your last day, right? Like live life like it's your last day. Well, for someone like me that has addiction problems and stuff, my last day isn't going to be my greatest day. I'll if it's my last day, I'll probably wake up. I won't do my yoga and meditation. I might end up at a bar. I'll probably, I don't know, I might go rob a pharmacy and end up with a hooker in a hotel room. I don't know. I don't know. It's my last day. Like the shadow might take over at that point. So I don't like saying, live life like it's your last day. I would say, live life like it's your first day. So if you live life like it's your first day, this is what sorcery is all about. It's like you see the wonderment in the world. It's like look at the world through a child's eyes and have curiosity. Question everything. Question everything, because your intuition will tell you the truth. It's up to you to believe it or not, but question what's going on in the world. Question what's around you, the settings. The world may not be as we think it is, and so if you start questioning things, and especially about people, when you run into difficult people, start questioning things, and that's really what's. But yes, so that's what I would say.
All right, Justin, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing the story and ideas behind Sorcery 101. It's been a thought-provoking conversations about healing, purpose, and reconnecting with something greater than ourselves. So to everyone listening right now, those who would like to learn more about you and your book, how can they get your book and connect with you as well?
Yeah, so I would say just Google my name, Justin L. Shaw. The website will pop up, should be awakenthesorcerer.com with a U. It's on Amazon. I would you search by my name because when you search sorcery with a U, it auto corrects it because it's misspelled, which is kind of annoying. So, but it's on Amazon. It's also an audio where I read the book. So if you're not into reading or don't have time to read, the audio book is good as well. It's on Audible and Spotify. I think several of those. And the Instagram is sorcerer underscore 13. And I only have Instagram. And then the if you want a free copy of the PDF, I can send you a free copy if you can't afford a book. You can email me at sorcerer13 at gmail. So those are the ways to get a hold of me.
All right. I would also like you to send me your links on Podmatch, so I'll add them to the show notes. Okay. Thank you to all my
Yes, yeah,
listeners
I
as
can do
well.
that. Yeah, I'll put that all that in there. Yep.
Okay. And as always, thank you for listening to Control or Be Controlled. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could benefit from today's conversation. Until next time, take control of your life so it doesn't control you. Bye, guys. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.